I think by this stage you should be getting pretty familiar with how we work with average gradients. So at this point now, this next example, it's a very similar way of working it out. What I really want to actually point out more than anything is the notation that's being used, okay? So often a question is not that difficult. It's just the way that it gets asked that throws you, okay? So that's what we've got to try and get over, is being able to look at a question that's being asked in different ways and not letting that freak you out, but being able to interpret what it is that's being asked. Because the second you understand that, the working out, generally speaking, is actually not too bad. It's just understanding what's being asked, okay? Right, they've given us an f of x function, which is negative x squared, and it says determine f of 1 plus h minus f of 1 over h. So now you need to recognize that this f of 1 plus h minus f of 1 over h, that is the same formula that we did right in the very beginning for the first video of average gradient, where we established an equation for average gradient, which was f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. Okay, so do you see where the connection between the two? All right. The only thing to really note here is that x1, or the first x variable that we're working with, is the variable of 1 plus h, and don't worry that it's got an h in it, it's okay. And the other x variable is 1, okay? So just like all the other examples I've done up until now, if we've got the x coordinate, well, the first kind of major thing you have to do is you've got to work out the y coordinate for each one of them. Okay? So how did we do that? We took the x coordinate that we had and we substituted it into the equation and we got the y coordinate. So nothing new here. Sorry, let's get rid of that. Nothing new here. That's exactly what I'm going to do. So instead of f, we're going to work out f of 1 plus h, and we do that by substituting 1 plus h into the equation, which is negative x squared. Here's just a very quick little note, an algebra note. If you've got a binomial is two terms that are being squared. Please do not make the very careless error of just going squared, squared. All right, you cannot do that, okay? If you've got a binomial that is being squared, it means that you're taking that bracket and you are multiplying it by itself 2 times. So therefore, I'm going to have negative 1 plus h times by another 1 plus h, which means you are going to be doing FOIL. Okay, watch out and don't make that silly error. Right, so that gives us 1, it gives us 2h, and it gives us plus h squared. And if I distribute my negative, it becomes negative 1 minus 2h minus h squared. Okay, that's the y coordinate for the first x value. The second y coordinate, if I've got f of 1, well, if I substitute 1 into my value for x, that's just giving me negative 1. Okay, now that we've got these x coordinates, okay, so let's take out that, oh, no, wrong one. Let's take out the unknown y's and let's fill them in. The first y value was negative 1 minus 2h minus h squared, and the other y value was just negative 1. So this is now going to become my x1 and my y1 value, and this is my x2 and my y2 value. And now we just do our normal change in y over change in x. So average gradient is going to be equal to y1, which is negative 1 minus 2h minus h squared, so y1 minus y2, which is a negative 1, over x1, which was just 1 plus h, minus x2, which was just 1. Okay, now we tidy up. All right, now we just got to clean it up. I've got a negative 1 and I've got two negatives which are making a positive 1, and negative 1 and positive 1 cancel each other out. Similarly down here, positive 1 and negative 1 are going to cancel each other out. So what am I sitting with? I've got a negative 2h minus h squared, and it's sitting over h. And can you see that I can simplify that further? All right, do you see how? I hope what you're telling me is that you can see there's a highest common factor of h, all right? So if you can take out a common factor that's going to help it simplify further, well, you are expected to do that. Okay, so therefore the h's are going to cancel each other out, and we are left with -2 minus h. That then represents your average gradient between a point of 1 plus h and 1. All right, one more example to do for average gradient. So let's see you in the next video. Well done.